This is Korean Air Flight 858. On board are 104 passengers and 11 crew. 113 are South Korean nationals, young workers returning home from foreign labor in the Middle East. The plane is expected to arrive in Bangkok. This does not happen. Instead, just 5 after 2 p.m., as the plane was crossing the Andaman Sea, contact to radio was lost. What happened to Korean Air Flight 858? Two passengers aboard the plane heading to Abu Dhabi had an atypical journey behind them. Beginning in Pyongyang, they traveled to Moscow. After some stops in Europe, they would arrive at Saddam International Airport in Baghdad. Equipped with a suitcase and a plastic bag. The plastic bag had a bottle inside, filled with 700 milliliters liquid explosive, while the suitcase had a Panasonic radio with 350 grams of C4 and a timed explosive. Prior to boarding their flight to Abu Dhabi, the seemingly Japanese travelers, a daughter and her father, would briefly part ways at the airport. They felt that they were being watched. The daughter went to the restroom, where she armed the explosive device and set a timer for 9 hours. Although they were carrying this device, they managed to successfully pass all security checkpoints and board Flight 858. On what appeared to be a normal stopover, they would exit the plane in Abu Dhabi, leaving behind the suitcase in the overhead compartment. Airport security would have been suspicious of their travel paths, so instead, the two passengers decided to use their backup tickets to fly to Bahrain. 9 hours after the timer set, approximately at 2 p.m., contact to radio was lost.
실종된 대한항공기에 관련된 속보입니다. 대한항공의 한 관계자는 실종된 여객기가 추락했을
The plane did not send any distress signal, which would be expected had there been an explosion. Extensive investigations began, and background checks on all passengers were completed. It quickly became clear that the two Japanese passengers had forged passports. They were now the primary suspects. They were detained by the authorities to understand their involvement. The two North Korean agents realized their cover had been blown. They had planned for this scenario. In their cigarette packets, they hid cyanide capsules, which they both managed to swallow. The male passenger, Kim Song-il, died from the poison quickly, while the female, Kim Yong-hui, survived. She was extradited to South Korea, where she was intensely questioned, not giving in to various strategies used by South Korean interrogators at first. There had been no trace of Flight 858. A hijacking was becoming less and less likely. Finally, Kim Yong-hui confessed to have planted an explosive device on Korean Flight 858 on direct orders from Kim Jong-il. 9 hours after takeoff, the explosive caused the airplane to abruptly crash over the Andaman Sea near Burma. None of the passengers and crew survived. A wildly publicized trial led to Kim Jong-hui receiving the death sentence. Controversially, the same year, the South Korean president pardoned her crimes, stating she was merely brainwashed, ensuing public outrage. There had already been long-lasting political tension between North and South Korea. In 1945, the Japanese surrendered in World War II. Korea was split into Soviet-controlled side and the US-controlled side. The Korean War, which began in 1950, with North Korea trying to invade South Korea to reunite the peninsula, ended in a stalemate. North and South Korea remained divided and formally at war until today. South Korea's economy had prospered, while much about North Korea was still hidden from the international eye. The Olympic Games of 1988 were planned to be held in Seoul, showing off their country to the world, further increasing their international recognition over North Korea. In an attempt to derail the Olympic plans, North Korea hoped to scare athletes and committees through the terrorist attack on the plane. The Olympic Games still took place in Seoul in 1988. In a book published by Kim Yong-hui in 1991, this narrative tries to be upheld. She details her life in North Korea, but also goes into detail about year-long training in Western countries. She felt those societies were affluent and carefree. Interestingly, She attempts to distance herself from her crimes, describing how she was reborn in South Korea after the bombing of the plane. She flaunts her extraordinary physical skills and beauty in her book, instead of detailing the psychological aspects of the event, conflicting with the remorseful and brainwashed narrative. Initially, she excuses her actions due to her will to serve the North Korean regime, then states she was afraid for her family, but then confesses when her own life and freedom is at stake. 3 decades later, the North and South Korean borders are still very well protected. Donald Trump calls Kim Jong-un the Rocket Man. The North Korean government aids Russia with bullets for the Ukrainian war, and the threat North Korea proves is greater than ever. Surprisingly, North and South Korea marched side by side in the 2018 Olympic Winter Games. Thanks for watching.